Hey everyone, J-Rod Plays here. This is going to be my guide for the Battleground Moon GM Nightfall. And in this guide, I'm just going to go over how I did it. I did it in the week where there was an arc surge, so I'm going to have an arc build. But currently this week, there is a solar surge and a strand surge. So you can do the really nice strand hunter build where you have your strand buddies running around and just kind of automatically killing things so that you can start those little whirling blades of death. And you can also then go warlock with like a solar grenade build, for example, and that'll kind of serve the same purpose. And the reason why I mentioned these two builds, the Hunter, of course, because it kind of like the little strand buddy that goes around killing everything, and that's going to be important in the middle room. And the Titan build that I have is also important in the middle room. You'll see in the footage that I have a cheese spot where I hide in, and then I throw my lightning grenade, and the lightning grenade goes around killing and jolting everything for my teammates who are in the doorway, picking things off and peeking while things are looking at me, because things have their backs to them, shooting at me. They can lean out, shoot them safely without getting too much damage from the stuff that's kind of looking at them by the door. So once they clear the stuff by the door, they can peek out and they can kill these snipers in the middle, because the snipers and the unstoppable ogres are the two major threats. Everything else not that bad, but the snipers and the ogres are for sure a problem in that room, and those are going to be the ones that end your run. People tried hiding in the rafters, but they get too easily sniped, so it's better to just stand in the doorway and then do the just cheese where you have one person kind of hiding in that little cheese spot that I'll show you, and then throwing grenades to clear out all the ads. Then you can hop back out and start the countdown again by engaging with the console, and then from there you can start getting progress again. And that's going to be the longest point. You go onto the boss room, and I'll show you how to make the boss room real easy. I soloed the boss after my two teammates died down below. So from here, let me just kind of again cover the build. What I'm using the Striker Titan build with the Heart of Inmost Light, and so that one's going to give my grenades the ability to come back sooner. I'm using Thruster in this case, so let me kind of cover that. Thruster is going to help me more often, every 36 seconds, boost my grenade recharge rate, which is going to be the Storm Grenade. And then from there, we're looking at the Seismic Strike and Strafe Lift. Those are going to be preference. I just use this to get around. I'm using Knockout so that I get regeneration and I get amplified when I defeat targets with melee attacks. Really, this is just for the benefit of having the additional 2 slots, because you're not going to really use Juggernaut, right? So Knockout is the other option. The big one is Touch of Thunder. This one, if you only could use one, this is the one you're going to use, because it's going to allow your lightning storm grenades, the storm grenades themselves, to chase things, and they're going to roam around and do damage. Now, how we augment that is we're going to use Spark of Shock so that they jolt targets. We're going to be using Spark of Resistance, so that way when we're surrounded, if we happen to peek out, we don't get one-shot by those snipers. Still can happen, though. And then once we do Spark of Ions, defeating those jolted targets gives us Ionic Traces, which then feeds us with more energy to get us back our grenades. And then, of course, Spark of Magnitude allows our grenades to stay out longer. So it's really focused around the Storm Grenade like we used to have, the older Storm Grenade build. Not as potent, but with the Surge it was pretty potent. Even without the Surge, though, it'll still be an effective way that when you're in the cheese spot to kill things safely without dying, which is the main portion that you're trying to avoid, is having to have your teammates come out there to res you, because they'll be in a dangerous position. Now, of course, you max out your resilience, you max out your discipline. Everything else is secondary. As you can see, I still have 60 recovery, but I would like to have it higher. Next thing we're looking at is just going to be the setup for the build. So kinetic siphons, because I'm using the bow. I'm going to be using weapon-wise the Wish Ender, using tarnished metal with shoot to loot and payload. Shoot to loot to get my heavy ammo. Commemoration, because it just slaps. It doesn't actually have any kind of bonuses, but it's just such a good weapon with 4 times the charm and killing tally. If you've been actually doing the raid, which I haven't been doing much, you actually can have the reconstruction roll, which is really nasty, so that's another option for you there. Then I've got Fastball to help with the grenade throws, bolstering detonation, same thing, that's going to feed into the loop, so when I do grenade damage, I have my Thruster. Thruster gives me my grenade back. We're using Grenade Kickstart as well, so that same thing, when I throw my grenade, I'm getting a little chunk back. And this is the only thing I'm spending my charges on, my armor charges on, is the grenade. I'm using Void Resistance, Sniper Resistance to stay alive from the snipers, and Harmonic Resistance because I just had an extra slot. That gives me a little bit of arc damage resistance as well. These are going to be just my stats that I'm maxing out. Elemental Charge allows me to get elemental charges from those ionic traces from the grenades, and then Stacks on Stacks gives me more room for those traces so that I can have a bigger grenade pop when I do pop a grenade. And then, of course, Double Bomber, and then distribution. So when I'm using my class ability, when I'm surrounded by stuff in the rooms, then from there I'm going to get my abilities back, all of them, but mainly the grenade is what you're trying to focus on. And so that's going to be the build. As far as the other items here, they're just really the main ones you're going to be looking at are going to be the monochromatic maestro. If you happen to get some kills with your scout, that'll help boost your grenade energy. If you get kills with your grenade, then you boost your scout. And then elemental munitions. From there, if I happen to kill something with my orbs that I have, then I'll end up getting that. But you can switch this out. I would switch this out, let's see, for the elemental rapid fire ranger, sorry. So I would go rapid fire ranger on that build because of the fact that I'm using Wish Ender. So this I think I had swapped out once during the actual encounter. I'm pretty sure I had rapid fire ranger, but we'll see. So other than that, that's going to be the build. Now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to talk about the encounter itself. I'm going to play it straight through and comment over it so that way you guys can see everything that I'm doing and the way that I'm thinking as I'm going through the GM to beat the GM, because this is going to be one of the hardest ones when you're trying to do it LFG. With the group, not so bad. You can see Astrocross video on that if you have a group and how to maximize and get through that quickly. But without a group, with people who you can't coordinate with as easily or may not be on voice chat, this is going to be the guide for that, and that's going to be a large majority of the players, I think, that are kind of doing it on their own, trying to get it done through LFG. So good luck on your runs. I'm going to go and walk through now from here. If you have any questions, just hit me down in the comments below, and I'll be glad to answer them. So touching down into the mission, you're going to actually start out by having the person who's on the Strand class run ahead and try to kind of distract. If you're the one that's like in my position, just hang back and wait for them to spawn the ads. That way you don't spawn them early. That way they don't get killed early by just everything turning on them and shooting them with a bunch of like boomers and area of effect stuff. What I'm doing here is I'm just doing my best to help support the person up top who's actually holding aggro and just pick at everything that I can. Of course, using the bow makes a big difference because with Wish Ender I can see where the enemies are, where they're going to peek, what enemies are trying to pop their shield, for example. And if I need to, I can switch over to my scout and pop the shields of the knights who are running arc. In this case, I'm doing that a lot less. When I first started this, I was doing my hunter. I was actually doing the invis build, and it didn't work out because people were having trouble staying alive, so I said, let me just do the arc and let somebody else do the invis build, which we do have that in that scenario. I got lucky and found somebody with an invis build as well. So I'm the damage dealer pretty much, and they're the backup heal slash help build. And from here, what we're doing is we're picking off the chorister, because again, if you let the chorister get to that, it's going to give shields to the ads. And I'm just doing my best to generate my grenade and to make sure that I'm keeping pressure on all of the champions and everything that can put their shields up. And so again, here I am popping the champions. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just make sure that I'm holding the angle and waiting for the champion to actually drop its shield, and then I can pop it. But you can see there with the Strand buff and everything Strand, that little whirling buddy there, man, he did a great job. Unraveling does a good amount of debuff and damage at the same time. So that's another nice little perk of having a Stasis Hunter or just a Stasis build in general on your team in this particular one. And there I am again with the grenade, just putting pressure. Same thing with the little buddy there, buddy's putting pressure. The whirling blade, that is. And now here the reason I'm doing this is because I don't have my grenade yet, and I want to make sure I'm popping all of the knight shields. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm using the explosive damage, which is arc, to pop the knight shield, and then I'm going to keep the ogre down for my teammates, because I don't want the ogre to come and get close and start beaming people. It can pretty much like one-shot you, or it feels like it one-shots you whenever it does hit you. So just keep that in mind, especially if you don't have void resist. And so again, now I'm just knocking the shields down. There I am holding the angle, waiting for the knight. Trying to get a grenade out there. That was actually a pretty nice nade now that I look at it. I was worried that it was going to hit the bottom of the train tracks above us there. And so you see also too, like I'm not moving up because I'm taking advantage of my range. I brought the bow for a reason, and so I'm just going to make sure that I put myself in a position where I'm always going to be alive. If I was more aggressive, I would have gone up there and hit the boss with a super, but I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not the one that's dying, so that way I don't put them in a bad situation. But what I do end up doing is I do end up using my super to take out this barrier knight, because it was in a spot where I think it could have got away, and I didn't want it to get away, and it was actually possibly able to kill my teammate, so I was like, let me just take it down and make sure that my teammate is good. So here I'm just grabbing the heavy before I go. Always remember to come back and grab heavy if you've used any of your heavy ammo. Now in this next space, you just want to make sure you're sticking with your teammates and taking your time, because when you get down here and you do the large drop down, there's going to be like a bunch of enemies right at the door. So if you have like a movement tech, for example, like I could turn around and do a charge, and that would cancel some of my movement. I tried to charge to the left sometimes and end up where those boxes are, but in this case I think I ended up like charging directly into all the enemies in this particular run. I can't remember, I did a couple of them. If I did, then what I ended up doing was dropping a nade and just you know, getting the hell out of there and letting the nade do its work. But as you can see, once I get out of here, I'd like to try to control shoulder charge to the left there, but my shoulder charge just wasn't activating, so I ended up right in all the enemies. Thankfully, my grenade did some good cleanup, and I was able to be okay throughout the fight. My teammate also was a beast. I have to give Blade Dancer some credit. He did a lot of good, like aggro clear, like ad clear. And my other teammate, he did die a little bit more, but he was actually pretty good when it came to rezzing. I think he saved me the one time that I got killed like through the wall, which is dumb. I was in my cheese spot, and I think an enemy like shot me through the actual wall. It was like a small piece of my arm maybe was sticking out or something, or my finger, and it shot and killed me in my finger. Like, great. So what I'm doing here is I'm just jumping and popping, so that I can pick off that chieftain without putting myself in a bad situation. Like Blade Dancer, I don't know how he lived through that. I guess it was the woven mail, but man, that was rough. That he just stood right in that grenade. Here he got hit by the grenade. So that woven mail build, that build that he's running, is a nasty build. And that's when I was recommending for you, if you're in a situation where you know, you're not able to run this build, or you're on your hunter and you don't want to run the void build, you already have a void hunter, you can actually switch over to this one, and it's very strong as long as you keep up your woven mail like Blade Dancer's been doing. So here's the cheese spot. I'm going to sit in here, and you kind of get to the point where you can stand right in here, and then you duck down. And so ducking down, what that's going to do, that's going to make it to where all of the snipers, they can't really snipe you. And I can then throw grenades from this spot over and over again, right where that generator's at in front of me, and the nades will actually clear up enemies little by little. And so you see here the nade going out, and then I've got a bunch of enemies now looking at me, and so the nade's going to get out there and it's going to clear some ads. And so what I'm doing now is I'm waiting, and what you can do is, if you're a little bit more aggressive, you can actually do your thruster. I was pretty passive because I had already tried this like 4 or 5 times with other players, and I was pretty tired of getting to a situation where I would get here, we'd almost get done with this room, and then we'd die. So I was just playing it safe. You know, again, I've had some dumb deaths in this particular one with snipers shooting you from spots they shouldn't be able to hit you with. But as you can see here how nasty that grenade is, that grenade is just doing work. It's getting rid of all those raiders, and those are the raiders that have the snipers on them, or the shotgun kind of guns, which also can kind of quote-unquote snipe you, because they can kill you with a few shots from far away, and it just like boom, 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 you're dead. So it's still kind of like snipey. And so now also what you can do is, if you have a foot pedal, or if you're like me and you have a mobile mouse, or if you're good with your keybinds, you can just like pop up and you can shoot, pop up, shoot, pop up, shoot. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm popping up and shooting. Messed up my grenade there. I was pissed. I was like, oh, come on, really? Now here are the champions. I can't remember if this is where I tried to use my thruster in this run, and I ended up in a bad spot. So just be careful when you're trying to use your thruster. Also, what you can do here is you can pop up and peek, and you can actually get these champions to get stunned, so that your teammates can actually wreck them, and your teammates can actually get to the point where they coordinate with you if they're smart, and they hear the stun go off, and then they start doing a bunch of damage, and then you pop up, you get the stun again, and the whole time the Unstoppable's not even looking at them, it's looking at you, It does suck a little bit for them because their damage is going to be mostly body shot damage, but it's better than trying to face off with these unstoppables that can one-shot you. And see, I'm doing basically the reverse of what I was telling you guys that you can do with them, where they pop out when things are looking at us, or looking at me, and shoot them in the back. Whenever I pop out and I know that they're looking at them, I can then shoot them in the back. So right now, like the Raiders looking at me, it's not a good time to pop out. But if the Raider ever turned around and started shooting at them, then I can pop out and I can actually get those kills. You see how like those Raiders there were looking away from me? I could have and should have killed them, but I waited for my grenade because again, I was just trying to play it safe. And right now, all I'm doing is just trying to keep these abominations stunned for my teammates, keep them busy so that they don't turn around and do any kind of damage onto my teammates. I don't want to lose any more lives because we feel like we would need them in the final room. I was hoping that, you know, again, the Angelica Kaufman and the Blade Dancer guys would be pretty much able to survive on their own down there in the bottom, and they were, but I think they died to some BS too. I feel like the last champion came out and one of the guys traded with the last champion because I didn't see any champions after I soloed the boss from there. And again, I'll go into how to do that soon. As you can see right now, we're at 65%. And the reason why we're continuing to tick is because those yellow bars are dead and somebody's come up, the person who came up, Blade Dancer I believe, and reactivated it for us. And so now what I'm doing is I'm just making sure that all the ads stay off of the plate so that they don't actually deactivate this hack progress so that we can move in. Now that's the one that I was telling you about. So it was a grenade. It looks like it threw a grenade. Grenade hit the wall and then went through the wall to kill me. And then I was like, oh shit, am I gonna have to start over again because Kaufman died? Here I'm telling him no idea how a nade killed me. So Blade Dancer's gonna try to go out there. He's gonna try to get some work done. And he's got Woven Mail, but he had to come back because the big ass ogre there is like just not having it. Kaufman also died over there by me, and somehow I don't know like how it ended up working, but he ended up in the doorway. So it's like great, you know, he's in the doorway. That was a stroke of luck for us because usually when you die, your orb, you know, is out there, and that means that we would have had to wait for Blade Dancer to basically kill every single thing off, and you know, get to the point where he could res us. Now from here, he's going to spend a little time doing a bunch of kills and getting Angela Kaufman back up. I'm going to skip forward to that. Now Angela Kaufman is back up and he's going to go for my res. Invis as well, by the way. So I get back down into where I'm at. He's actually smart enough to hit me with an invis as we hop up, which is great. If I were a little bit overzealous, I would have tried to hit the enemies with a super, but I was like, nah, let me just play it safe. Especially since Blade Dancer died, and Blade Dancer was our other really good player. As you can see, he's a Conqueror 10, so this is definitely not his first rodeo. And so then I think that's the last of the champions. So now what they're doing is these guys are pushing out and I'm helping pop out and cover. because I know that they're trying to get over here to reactivate the hack, which they just did. And so I'm just doing my best to make sure that I'm killing everything that I can that's anywhere around them, because I don't want them to die again in a bad spot, especially since we're so close. As you see, I got that last nade out there. I would have been killed if I didn't have the sniper damage resistance. And then boom, there we go. We've got 100%. We were able to stop that. And so at that point, I was like, GG, because this is the hardest part. I couldn't get past this room. And now that I'm past this room, I'm like, okay, so we're definitely going to get this done. And these lasers, it's been a long time since I've run them, but I have that muscle memory in them. Not everybody has that muscle memory, because poor Angelica Kaufman died. Thankfully, Blade Dancer was up there, and he was able to go reverse through the lasers and pick him back up again. And I have my cuts filter on there, I think, still on Steam side, and so we got a little bit of music coming from Angelica Kaufman. Probably the F word. F for frustration, by the way. And so here is the next kind of more difficult spot. It's not too terrible in the sense that you have to worry too much about dying, but what is bad is that if you don't get coordinated and you don't alter your plan based on what you see your teammates doing. So I've got the Blade Dancer going right. I know he's good, so I'm like, alright, he's gonna be fine. There's no way he's gonna die over there on his own. He's gonna be good. And then we got Kaufman at the top doing the burst damage to these locks, which is fantastic. That's exactly what you need to do. So I'm like, alright, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get over here, and I'm just going to get out of the way, but I'm going to make sure that I can actually protect him. Unfortunately, Kaufman there shot me in or not Kaufman, Blade Dancer ended up shooting me in the back and wasting a little bit of the gun, so that we're going to need a third gun. It's charging right now there, you can see there on the right, so I'm like, well shit, let me just jump down. We're about to get a heavy ammo spot drop anyway, so I'm going to get in there and just do damage and wreck with my heavy ammo and make sure that I'm clearing. Angela Kaufman is also helping clear, which is fantastic. I don't have a shield, so I have to just be careful where I'm standing, and so right now I'm just kind of peek shooting and making sure that I'm in a good spot where I can kill these captains. I'm backing up again because I don't want to get too close to these Ravagers because I was already low health. And so I'm just, again, supporting my teammates, doing my best to support my teammates there. Alright, so now we've killed the locks. We're going to get the heavy, and so what's important here, and this is the important spot, you're going to jump on this arch in front of you, and you want to make sure you land directly in the middle of it, because if you land on either side, you'll end up sliding off the edge and dying. And then you can jump either to the left or the right pipes. I ended up here on the left pipes. You're going to run really hard and hop, and you can actually get to the top of these pipes without any kind of a kill zone, and then you can stand on these upper pipes and get shots, or you can jump down into the lower section right below me. I had intended on staying on these upper pipes because I wanted to get more surface area and more room on the sides to see, but what I ended up having to do was I ended up having to jump down there because my footing, I kind of lost my footing and I ended up falling, and rather than falling all the way to the bottom, I just tried to make sure that I salvaged it, and I pushed myself toward the middle there as I was falling, and ended up landing on these pipes below me, this kind of like AC ductwork below me. But this was my plan all along from here, was to just pop grenades, and up here I could comfortably thrust her and kind of thrust her back and forth and not really fall. So I was planning on doing that, but then when I fell down to that lower level, I was like, no, I'm not gonna risk it. It's not worth it. But you can see that was a nice example of how the Strand kit is actually pretty good here too, because that little whirling buddy went over to the boss and was doing some damage to the boss. Not a lot, but enough. And so what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to locate any enemies or the boss so that I can help my teammates. And you do have dangers up here though, so keep that in mind. You do have the ability to get killed because they can throw grenades up here, and you can get shot by any of the enemies' range attacks. But the grenades are the most worrisome, and then the shots from the boss are also very worrisome. So here's where I fell down accidentally. Again, I didn't intend to fall down, but it's like, you know what, that's fine, I'm good here. And so what I'm trying to do now is, the mindset is, anytime I see enemies spawning groups like that, I want to try to take them out with a grenade if I have one. If I don't have one, I'm just going to pick at them and then pick at the boss. Pick at the enemies and then pick at the boss. The boss, every now and then, will drop a totem, a purple totem, which is going to be the immunity totems. You want to make sure you take those out too. And if you see my movement here, you notice what I'm doing is I'm peeking out through this bar, and that left part of my bar is actually like a wall. You can't shoot that left part of the bar. So the boss can't really shoot me when I'm behind this left little wall here. And the boss can snipe you, so keep that in mind, that the boss can snipe you, does a good amount of damage, and I don't know if he can one-shot you with resistances, but he may be able to one-shot you without them, so just keep that in mind. And again, I'm not doing thruster up here, even though like I probably could safely just like thruster backwards, no problem. I just don't want to fall. I don't want to lower my chances of getting this done. I'd been trying for hours with other groups to get to this point, and I'm like, now that I'm at this point, I'm in this cheese spot, this boss is going down. Like, there's no way that I'm allowing this boss to get away from me. Because this was holding up my Conqueror. This was one of the runs that was holding up my Conqueror, so I wanted to make sure I got that done earlier in the season, so that way the rest of the season I can just mess around with the haunted stuff coming up for the Halloween event, the Festival of the Lost, I believe is what it's called. And I want to make sure that I have the ability to make videos on that and knock these videos out, these guides. So that's why I was really, really tentative, and I didn't want to do anything that could put us in jeopardy of losing this particular match, since we are already here at the boss. Now, Angelica Kaufman is running invis, so he can pick up those invis. He can invis and go pick up the orb, should I say, which is what he's doing right now. And what I'm doing is I'm just providing cover fire. And what I'm using is my heavy ammo, because I'd saved it all the way to this point. I didn't want to use it on these other enemies because I needed it to burn down these arc charge scorn. They're actually pretty beefy, and this gun does a great job of knocking them down without having to reload. I can probably kill 2 of them with good shots without having to reload my gun, especially because 4 times the charm is refunding money. Yeah, it is money, right? Refunding ammo, which is as good as money in this scenario to me. And what I'm doing is I'm just peeking and making sure that I'm dodging those grenades, and I'm trying to make sure that there's just orbs all over the ground for Angelica Kaufman to pick up when he can, when he's safe. Because it's always tough to do it by yourself, where you gotta get the kill, then you gotta go pick it up, and if you don't have the right build, which I don't know what build he was running, his invis didn't last super long, you're gonna end up being in a vulnerable spot when you go to dunk. And I think that's what ends up killing him, possibly, is maybe dunking the very last one. I really wish you could shoot through some of these holes in the floor, although that means that you can get shot through the holes in the floor, so it's not a bad trade-off to not be able to shoot through some of these. And there I am, just doing my best to try to help and kill these arc charge scorn, so that there's a bunch of orbs on the ground for Angelica Kaufman, and he's going to dunk this last one here. So now that he's done that, this is basically winning time, because the boss shield comes down, he doesn't have any more immunity phases, and so our goal now is just to pick at the boss over and over and over again. There's champions in there that spawn as well, and that's who's being handled right now by Blade Dancer. And so Blade Dancer killed 1 champion. Here I am trying to make sure that I'm clearing as many of those screebs as I can, because those screebs can sneak up on my teammates when they're dealing with champs, and those usually end up killing you because they're easy to miss. And so that's probably what happened to Angelica Kaufman over there. And so Angelica Kaufman's dead. I believe there was a champion out, and Blade Dancer's down there doing his best below me, trying to make sure that he clears all that stuff out solo. And so what I'm doing is I'm peeking down. I'm like, how can I help him get this champion? So I'm dropping this nade to try to do a little bit of damage to either the boss or to flush out the champion there. I ended up only killing a raider or 2. There was also an arc charge scorn left, so maybe that's who killed Angelica Kaufman. So Blade Dancer gets over there, he gets the res. I'm like, okay, cool, you know, we're good, we're gonna have all 3 of us here, everything's good. And so now I'm starting to do damage to the boss, making sure the boss isn't, like, you know, 360 no-scope me. Still dodging every time I take a shot, just out of habit to keep the rhythm going. And then the boss, of course, goes immune, and he's running around back there. And I'm pretty sure I do have the precision, the rapid-fire ranger, because you can see that the boss is going purple every now and then, so that's just me getting the debuff on the boss. So I don't know, again, I don't know if it was like the boss itself that killed those two, and because they were getting aggressive trying to get the win, but pretty much you can see here now it's just me at the top holding it down and doing my best. And so as you also are seeing on the screen, the totem popped up and he was immune, so I have to kill the totem. So what I'm doing now is I'm hitting the totem and hiding, and hitting the totem and hiding, because if I don't do that, these grenades that the boss is chunking at me are absolutely going to kill me. And then I want to make sure that every time I see the boss raise his hand, I'm getting on those totems, because what can happen, and what does happen here, unfortunately, is that the boss will put a totem behind that pillar that I'm next to, the one that you see there on the right, kind of to the right of my bow right now. That pillar, if he puts a totem back there, I can't shoot that. And so if I can't shoot that, I gotta come down, right? Because the boss has a situation where he's immune and all the enemies around him are immune, and I'm just sitting there, can't do anything. Well, what I ended up trying to do was wait until I had a grenade, and once I throw the grenade out there, the grenade can then seek to the enemies, and the enemies usually crowd around the totem, and I'm hoping that, and plus the jolt, might be enough to knock the totem down. And so that's what I did. And here's that moment here. So you see that the enemies in front of me, they are stacked up and they're sitting in the totem, but thankfully there's only one of them over there. And what they're doing is they're moving up little by little, which is separating them from the totem, and I'm getting kills through the shots because of that. But now I'm stuck in a situation where I'm like, well, shit, you know, there's no way that I can hit these guys. The totem is way back there. I can maybe try to go too far to the right, like I can sneak all the way to the right, but at this point, again, I was super worried. I was like, shit, I don't want to throw this. I don't want this to be a you know, a bad situation. But what ends up happening is those totems expire. So that's kind of a lucky situation for me, is the totem can expire. I didn't know if it was there forever or not, and so that was my hope, that I can get a grenade out there. The totem ended up expiring, and so now it's just a matter of picking them off. And man, I really wanted to go down there and finish him with my super, just kind of just badass style, just fly down there like I'm riding a nuke down there, and it's time to kill the boss. But I didn't. I just stayed here and I picked at the boss over and over again. I did the same little motion of popping out, getting a kill, popping out and hiding, so that way none of the grenades can reach me. And if a grenade did make it up there, I did make sure to move away from the grenade. And boss-wise, if the boss decided he was going to hide below me, I was going to make sure that I had a grenade for him too there. And so that's, luckily the boss came to the right, but that's what he was doing for a second, was teleporting directly below me to where I couldn't shoot him, because there's like a little wall, like a mini wall around a lot of these openings, a lot of these gaps. So fortunately the boss cooperated. As you can see there, I can't shoot through that, which is dumb and unfortunate. I should definitely be able to shoot through that whole opening there. And it's weird, there's like a little mini hole that you can shoot through. You can't shoot through the right, you can't shoot through the left, but there's like a small sliver, if the boss stands just in the right spot, that you can shoot him through that. And so, same thing, all the enemies were getting a little bit wild with the grenades, so I was just like, nope, I'm going to make sure I play it safe. That grenade made it pretty high, so again, making sure that it goes away. And here it is, here's the win. It's just time to get these last little chunks. The boss tried one more time to get a totem out there, and I'm pretty sure that I was able to knock the totem down with either jolt or my arrow maybe hit the totem and the boss at the same time, but the totem came down. And just a couple more shots. Boom. A little bit of a celebration teabag for the boss. I'm going to get in here and I'm going to give these guys the commendations they deserve, and that's a GG. So if you were struggling, if you're having any issues getting through this, and you follow this guide, you should be able to make it easy for yourself when you're working with other teammates. And you may end up in a situation where using this build or a similar build helps you just solo this thing while your teammates are on the ground, kind of like how I finished it out there. Thanks very much for all the new subscribers and watching to the end. I really appreciate everybody. I've had a good amount of new subscribers come in because of the Crota video that I made, as well as the last video that I made on the finale. And so hopefully you guys enjoy these videos and these commentary videos and you have a need for these videos to help you get through these Grandmasters that are not really easy, the more difficult ones. I'm also going to have a Scarlet Keep video. That one was way easier, but it's still nice to see, and I'll see you guys in the next guide.